The book of Jonah. And the word of Yahweh came to Jonah, son of Amittai, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, the great city, and cry out against it, for their evils have come up before me. But Jonah rose up to flee to Tarshish from the presence of Yahweh, and went down to Jaffa, and found a ship going to Tarshish, and he paid the fare, and went down into it, to go with them to Tarshish from the presence of Yahweh. And Yahweh sent out a great wind on the sea, and there was a great storm on the sea, so that the ship was thought to be broken up. And the seamen were afraid, and each one cried out to his mighty one, and threw the cargo which was in the ship into the sea, to lighten the load. But Jonah had gone down into the lowest part of the ship, and he lay down and was fast asleep. And the captain came to him and said to him, What do you mean, sleeper? Arise, cry out to your Elohim, if so be that Elohim shall think about us, so that we do not perish. And they said to each other, Come, and let us cast lots, so that we know for whose sake this evil has done come upon us. So they cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. So they said to him, Please explain to us, for whose sake is this evil upon us? What is your occupation, and where do you come from? What is your country, and from what people are you? And he said to them, I am a Hebrew, and I am fearing Yahweh, the Elohim of the heavens, who made the sea and the dry land. And the men were exceedingly afraid, and said to him, Why have you done this? For the men knew that he fled from the presence of Yahweh, for he had informed them. And they said to him, What are we to do to you to make the sea calm for us? For the sea was growing more stormy. And he said to them, Take me and throw me into the sea, so that the sea becomes calm for you. For I know that this great storm is because of me. However, the men rowed hard to bring the ship to land, but were unable, for the sea continued to grow more stormy against them. And they cried out to Yahweh and said, We pray, O Yahweh, please let us not perish for this man's life, and do not lay on us innocent blood, for you, O Yahweh, have done it as it pleased you. Then they took Jonah and threw him into the sea, and the sea stopped raging. And the men feared Yahweh exceedingly, and slaughtered a slaughtering to Yahweh, and made vows. But Yahweh appointed a great fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the stomach of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. And Jonah prayed to Yahweh his Elohim from the stomach of the fish, and he said, I called to Yahweh because of my distress, and he answered me. From the stomach of Sheol I cried, and you heard my voice. For you threw me into the deep, into the heart of the seas, and the flood surround me. All your breakers and your waves passed over me. So I said, I have been driven away from your eyes. Would I ever look again toward your set-apart Hekal? Waters encompassed me unto life, the deep closed around me. Weeds were wrapped around my head. I went down to the base of the mountains. The earth with its bars were behind me forever. But you brought up my life from the pit, O Yahweh, my Elohim. When my life fainted within me, I remembered Yahweh, and my prayers went up to you in your set-apart Hekal. Those observing false worthlessness forsake their own loving commitment. But I slaughter to you with the voice of thanksgiving. I pay what I have vowed. Deliverance is of Yahweh. Then Yahweh spoke to the fish, and it vomited Jonah onto dry land. And the word of Yahweh came to Jonah the second time, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, the great city, and proclaim to it the message that I am speaking to you. And Jonah arose and went to Nineveh, according to the word of Yahweh. Now Nineveh was a great city before Elohim, of 3 days' journey. And Jonah began to go into the city on the first day's walk. And he cried out and said, Yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. And the men of Nineveh believed in Elohim and proclaimed a fast, and put on sackcloth, from the greatest to the least of them. And the word reached out the sovereign of Nineveh. So he rose from his throne and took off his robe and covered himself with sackcloth and sat in ashes. But he proclaimed and said throughout Nineveh, By decree of the sovereign and his nobles, no man or beast, herd or flock shall taste whatever. Let them not eat, let them not even drink water. But let man and beast be covered with sackcloth and call mightily to Elohim. And let each one turn from his evil way and from the violence that is in his hands. Who knows whether Elohim does turn and relent, and shall turn away from the heat of his displeasure, so that we do not perish. And Elohim saw their works, that they turned from their evil way, and Elohim relented from the evil which he had said he would do to them, and he did not. But it greatly displeased Jonah, and he was grieved, and he prayed to Yahweh, and he said, Please, Yahweh, was this not what I said while I was in my own land? This is why I went ahead and fled to Tarshish, for I know that you are an El, showing favor, and compassionate, patient, and of great loving commitment, and relenting from doing evil. And now, O Yahweh, please take my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live. And Yahweh said, Are you right to be displeased? Then Jonah went out of the city and sat on the east side of the city and made himself a shelter there, and sat under it in the shade to see what would become of the city. And Yahweh Elohim appointed a plant and made it come up over Jonah to be a shade for his head, to deliver him from his discomfort. And Jonah greatly rejoiced over the plant. But as morning dawned the next day, Elohim appointed a worm which struck the plant so that it was withered. And it came to be, when the sun came up, that Elohim appointed a scorching east wind, and the sun struck on Jonah's head, so that he grew faint, and asked for his life to die, and said, It is better for me to die than to live. And Elohim said to Jonah, Have you rightly become displeased over the plant? And he said, I have rightly become displeased, even to death. And Yahweh said, You felt sorry for the plant for which you have not labored, nor made it grow, which came up in a night and perished in a night. And should I not pardon Nineveh, that great city, in which are more than 120,000 beings who have not known their right hand from their left, and much cattle?